Hey guys, welcome back to the show. We're super excited for another episode of Raising the Flipping Bar. We've got our friends and guests, Jesse and Rachel from J&R Homes. Welcome.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So definitely stick with us on this episode. We're going to talk about our most successful partnership flip to date, where we made just almost 180 grand total. And we don't say that to brag, but we'll talk about the good old days of 2021 and how the market has shifted. But stay tuned for how we're partnering together so we can both make as much money as possible, have fun in the meantime, and we're going to jump right in. So again, guys, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So we're going to dive into our $1 million flip that we did together with you guys in Littleton, which is super, super exciting. Wanted to kind of give the audience a little bit of background about you guys. Husband and wife team, which is super, super exciting. So would love for you guys to tell us a little bit more about your background, maybe before you got into flipping, what you guys were doing, and then we'll talk about what you're doing right now. But tell us your backstory.
Absolutely. We started off being civil engineers. We went to college down in Texas Tech, Lubbock, Texas. We studied to both be civil engineers, moved out here after college, and we both started working at the same company. We were civil engineers for 3 years. A couple of months in, we realized, this might not be the best thing for us. It was a kind of job where it was you were at a computer desk all day. So we were on our computers, sometimes 12, 13 hours a day, and it just wasn't sustainable for us. It wasn't the life that we wanted to live. So we started kind of digging into some things a couple months in, and we came upon real estate, flipping houses. Rach is a really creative person. She loves design. I love numbers. I love business. I was kind of raised in a household of a little bit of entrepreneurship. My parents owned restaurants.
Right.
So I kind of just grew up with that kind of thing in the back of my mind. And we stumbled upon, real estate, and we dove in. We learned as much as we could, probably for about a year, listening to all the podcasts, reading all the books we could get our hands on.
Getting familiar with the market in Denver and
Yeah, and then we jumped into our first deal with a partner. One of my friends from high school, him and his dad flipped houses in town, and we jumped into a deal with them. We learned so much on that deal, and then from there we, took off, did a couple deals on our own while we were working full time, and then managed to quit our full time jobs and do this full time. So now it's been a little bit over a year. So I quit my job. Well, you quit yours in January.
Correct.
Of 2022.
Yes.
And then I quit March 2022. So it's been just a little over a year,
right?
For me and Rach. So
yes. And we also, at the time that we did this partnership flip with you, Derek, we were very pregnant with our first child.
That's right.
That's right.
And we were super excited and working on, working full time and then working on this house with you and growing a human being. And
when we say you were
me.
Sorry, we can't take credit for that, Jesse. The female can do that.
Exactly. And we just knew that once we had this baby, we wanted to spend time with her, and we really wanted to raise her ourselves and watch her grow and have a big family one day and all the things. And so we knew that we needed to kind of get out of our engineering desk jobs and kind of pursue something that maybe we were more passionate about and also would provide us a lifestyle that we wanted to be able to raise a family and be with our kids more often. And now we're pregnant with the second, about to pop any week now.
Yeah, so you are looking fantastic for being, a couple weeks out. This is fantastic.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay. So now tell me a little bit give me the numbers on, remind me, how many flips have you guys done? And then you're looking into some rentals. Tell me a little bit about kind of your current numbers of where you guys are at.
That's right. To date, we've done 6 flips. We are working on our first new development project. So a house that we bought, we completely demoed. It's demoed right now. And we're planning to build a big single family house in Edgewater.
Yep.
So that's project number 7.
That's number 7.
So we have 6 flips under our belt. 1 flip turned rental.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. And we're going to talk about that too. I really love how you guys pivoted to kind of, we were all pivoting and figuring out what was going on with the market coming out of 2022. So we'll definitely dive into that. Okay. Yeah. So 6 into 7 flips, rental. And, the cool thing about it is that we met at the first no, it wasn't my first. It was our third academy in November, I want to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you guys took that. And then the way we got into this partnership flip was that you took that academy, and it was maybe only 2 months later, I think, that you guys were calling us saying, hey, I think we've got a pretty good deal. Like, Help me remind myself of that timeline of how we got to know each other, and then we'll fast forward to today.
Yeah, so that's right. The Academy was November 2020.
Yep.
This deal came across our inbox December 2020. So a couple weeks after, and we reached back out, and it was an excellent opportunity to partner with somebody like you and learn. And, we were still working full time. We had a project that we were working on. We just didn't have the resources or the time to do this one on our own. And it was just the perfect opportunity to partner with you.
Yeah.
And it was a massive project.
It was, 5,000 square feet, 7-bed, 4-bath, pool.
That's right.
I mean, this thing was
basically,
massive.
Jesse could not stop thinking about this project. This house came into his email via wholesaler, and he did not sleep for like 2 days. And he was like, we have to do this, Rachel. And I was like, Jesse, this project is massive. We don't have the time. We don't have the resources. I don't know how we're going to do this. And he was like, we have to figure it out. And I was like, okay, well, let's figure it out. And he was, brainstorming. And this was shortly after he attended the Academy, and was like, well, I'm going to reach out to Derek and I'm going to see what he thinks about this. And then we had you over to the house, and the rest is history.
Yeah. I know. And that's something that I want to frame for our audience too, of kind of how this partnership flip thing works. And I think a lot of people, the thing that I love having you guys here talking about is that people always say, well, what are you doing? You're training your competition. So if we think back, is you sat through 9 hours of intensive training, and Rachel, we will have you sit through 9 hours if you want to come back to one soon, of teaching like every step of our system. And then you guys are the poster children for people that we want to work with, of you're out then finding a deal. And then we partnered on a deal, and now we've done a handful of deals together, and we'll talk more about it towards the end of the episode. Rachel, you got your license. Like, that's to me like the growth mindset that we'll talk about in the next episode as well. But to kind of help frame and contextualize what partnership flip means, it's what you guys just did. It's the client, either a real estate agent, a seller, or a fellow investor, goes out and find a deal that I wouldn't otherwise find. So for you guys, it was working with another wholesaler that we didn't have a relationship. And then you guys ended up purchasing the property and buying the property. If it's like a seller, they're going to continue to own it, or a real estate agent is going to say, hey, great, my client's going to own the house. They'll sell on the back end, but they're going to bring it to us. We then bring in our expertise. We bring in our money. We fund the deal, and then we split the extra profits 50-50. And so again, if it's an experienced agent, they're going to sell it on our behalf, or if they're inexperienced, they're going to partner up with our team, and we're going to sell it. So truly that partnership flip mentality is something that we loved walking through with you guys. Definitely kind of maybe give me your mindset of, to your point, that was a big project. Like, what were some of the things you were worried about? And then we'll kind of dive into the numbers of this project. But tell me a little bit about, sounds like you were excited. You didn't sleep for 2 days, but what were you guys worried about too?
It was our first one of this size, period. It was 5,000 square feet. We had never done anything that big. It was 40 minutes away from where we live. So it was super far. And two, we were still working full time. We just didn't have any time to go over there if we were to have done it ourselves. Apart from that, it was, the size of the house, it was just such a massive investment in terms of rehab that, we were already doing one on our own. So those, and one of the other things was the pool. We'd never done a pool.
Yep.
Those pools in Colorado.
Yeah. So that was one of the things that we, those are, I think, the biggest things that we were nervous about.
Definitely.
Okay. Was there anything in the back of your mind, Rachel, where you're like, oh my gosh, I think we think we have all our bases covered? Was there something else that was just like in the back of your mind going, oh my gosh, why are we doing this? This is crazy.
I don't think so. I feel like Jesse and I are on pretty good wavelengths most of the time, where if he gets excited about something and he's super passionate, I'm quick to follow. And he felt like this was a home run, which it obviously was at the end of the day. I just think a little bit more like logistically, day to day, how is this going to work out? And again, that's what we were concerned about was this is 40 minutes away from where we live. We're working full time. We have a baby on the way. We had another project going that we were completely funding ourselves. Like, how are we logistically going to make this work, even though it is a slam dunk of a deal? But Jesse was super passionate about getting this, keeping this, making it work. And, we just put our heads together, figured it out. And it just was perfect timing that Jesse had just attended the academy and we got in touch with you, and that you even offer, partnerships like this in the first place, and you're open to that.
It was a win-win all around. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember being really excited. This was definitely one of those ones where we have clients that bring us deals and then we kind of politely tell them either A, you should pass, or B, we're going to pass because it's just not a good deal. And I remember you FaceTiming me from this house and I'm like, I was actually kind of pissed at myself. I'm like, how the hell did I miss this house? This is a good deal. I live really close to Littleton, so it was kind of in my backyard.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you guys showed me and FaceTime me and we looked at the numbers, I'm like, whatever it takes, like say yes. I was equally as excited, even though there's some hurdles we'll talk about here in a minute. But yeah, it was definitely a good deal. And you can quickly tell when it's a good deal. And the cool thing about it is we've both worked with this same wholesaler since then. And it also goes to show if you work with good wholesalers, then it is truly a win-win. I mean, they made a nice chunk of change. I remember him afterwards saying, I think he was a little sad that he did wholesale it because nobody saw where the market was going to be that big. Yeah. But it was a win-win. I mean, they made, again, a nice chunk of change, and that's fine. I always say, okay, if somebody brings me a house and they buy it at a tax lien auction or their parents inherit it to them, who cares how much somebody's making? As long as they leave us and be on the bone as investors, we're all going to make a bunch of money.
Yeah,
totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally.
So that's kind of our thought process.
And I think this wholesaler, he said the main reason he wasn't keeping it for himself is it was just too far for them.
Yes.
Because they are based in Arvada area. And but yeah, I'm sure he's kicking himself a little bit for not keeping this one.
Yep. This one was definitely good. So actually, that's a perfect segue into, I'm going to set the stage for our audience to kind of dive into the numbers. Okay. So, and also it was a little while ago too. So we bought this one for $490,000. We kept a $5,000 security deposit. Do you guys want to talk about why we kept the security deposit and what happened with the nice, sweet grandma that we thought we were buying this house from?
Yeah, so we closed on it December 17th, I believe it was, and we had a rent back till the end of January. So it was beginning of February. We're going to kick off, hit the ground running with this, with the construction on this one.
By the way, this house was occupied by one grandma, and it was 5,000 square feet, 7 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms. It was massive, and it was one single grandma. I think she had probably 20 to 25 couches crammed in this house. And yeah, I mean, it was Christmas time, but she also had like several Christmas trees up, and
looked like year-round Christmas decorations.
Yeah, it was quite the interesting walkthrough. That is for sure.
Yeah. So in this month that we have this rent back, we had every right to kind of give her a couple of days notice. Hey, we're going to go in there. We're going to walk with our contractor, get our numbers, firmed up, get a plan going. So when we close on this thing, we can hit the ground running with construction. She did not let us in. She did not let us in. Right. We emailed her a couple of times, nice as can be.
Well, we had already closed. She was just,
you guys owned it.
But we would tell her like, hey, we're going to come by with our contractor on Tuesday. This was like the Tuesday before. So, it was a whole week in advance. Hey, we'll wear our masks. We'll be super safe. We'll keep our distance. And she just replied with like,
she cussed Jesse out a few times via voicemail.
Man. And I called her a couple of times because we just needed to get into this thing. We needed to get a plan going. Time is money, especially when you're letting somebody rent it out for free for a month and a half.
Yep.
But she was not going to let us in, and it was what it was. We had to roll with the punches, and at the end of the day, we went in there, I think the first weekend of February after she moved out. By the way, she moved out and she gave us no notice that she moved out. She just kind of left.
Yeah.
Left the doors unlocked.
The front doors unlocked. So
no keys to be found. We had to run to Home Depot and replace the front door because we were trying to call her and say, hey, where did you leave the keys? And she was just, she was gone.
Yep. She was wherever she went to. But she left so much stuff in the house.
I mean, it was at least like a dumpster, right?
Of like a 40-yard, full 40-yard dumpster. Yeah. And some, I think. And she took the rails off the stairs. I mean, all kinds of stuff so she could move her 20 couches out.
Yep. Rip the rails off.
It was so much money just to get it to the place where we could start that we had to keep the security deposit that she left.
Right.
And that's why we kept that $5,000.
Yeah. And as investors, we're always, what we tell clients is, hey, just either A, take your stuff, or B, if you know and let us know, we kind of budget that in if we're going to remove your stuff. You never have to clean. It's not like a normal rental move out. Just don't trash it. And you're right. Graham's just trashed it, ripped off the railings, getting one of her 27 couches out of the basement. I mean, helped us because it was demo. So that backed us down to a 45 purchase price. Then we had $225,000 budgeted for rehab. And as you guys, outlined for our audience, just over 5,000 square feet, 7 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, a bunch of square footage. Weirdly, though, it was kind of cosmetic because we weren't moving tons of walls. We weren't taking like the kitchen from one side of the house to the other side. I mean, it was a hefty lift, but it was $225,000. We ended up finishing the project at $241,000 in rehab. So we'll talk about why we did that in a minute. And then we did an $850,000 ARV. I remember walking through that, and I think maybe Rachel, you and I are on the same page of being a little conservative on the ARV, and Jesse's like, we can sell it for more. And I was like, I hope so, man, but it makes me nervous. You were right. We listed it for $925,000, had a bunch of offers, and then also, again, this is June of 2021, so it was truly kind of like the heyday of the market being insane. In my opinion.
I think we had over 40 showings in one weekend.
Yes.
For this house.
Yeah.
And for a high priced home too, this is not, like a $500,000 home in Highlands Ranch. I mean, this truly was a high, close to $1 million listing. So we did that. Then we went our contract, ended up selling it for $1 million. So we always kind of nerd out on our metrics. And so the metrics were $108 per day in net profit, $172,000 total dollars of net profit, and a 21% ROI.
$801 per day.
Yeah, per day in net profit. So $801 in net profit, and we defined that a couple episodes back. But as you guys know, that's the amount of profit divided by the number of days, and that's something that I was so happy to work with you guys on too. Is that, I mean, for that big of a house to crank through it in 5 months was pretty great, actually, and that is a testament to you guys helping, to having a great contractor. We always do say like, this is one of the best deals we've ever done, but it wasn't like a true anomaly. It was, we got, an extra $75,000 of going over asking price, but we still would have had a healthy 6-figure profit, even if we were totally wrong and it was super conservative.
Yeah.
Totally.
So that kind of sets the stage for, the deal itself. I don't want to, but we're going to anyways, the pool. So one of the crazy things that we were really thinking about is you were the one that took the one for the team and you were trying to find pool vendors to fix this thing up. Talk about how hard it was to find a good pool company. And then maybe just where we were all putting our heads together to think, how much more can we sell this thing for having a pool?
Right. It was insane. I called probably like 20 or 30 pool companies in town, maybe even some in the springs, and everybody was booked up until like August, September. And we had this thing ready to sell in like May.
Yep.
So it was extremely difficult to find somebody to come take a look at it. Thankfully, we did find somebody. But yeah, to your point about the pool, not many houses here have pools. And like you said, some people might not want one because it's such a pain in the butt to winterize and, cover it for half the year. But this was a time when, coming out of COVID, kind of where a lot of people from California, from Texas were moving to places like Denver. And so I remember we always kind of had in the back of our mind, maybe somebody from there will come by, come see it and see that it has a pool, and it'll just add a lot of value to that particular buyer. And that's
I think the answer is we weren't sure. We weren't sure if this pool was going to add value or not. And the fact that this pool was not in like excellent condition was hurting us more than it was helping us at the end of the day when it came to showings and things like that. We made it through, and I think, like to your point, that the market was in such a hot place that it didn't hurt us as much as it might have hurt us in a more stable or typical market. People were willing to look past the pool because the market was so hot. But it was very challenging to figure out if this pool was going to help us or hurt us.
Yeah, it really was. And that's something that when we work with our agent on this one, we disclosed that we didn't know, and that we had put out as many, bids as possible. We were prepared to do a concession. We were prepared to fix it. And you're right. I mean, that kind of dovetails perfectly into my next point, which is we always shoot to have a double or a 200% return on investment for when we're spending extra money to fix stuff up. So when we thought about our budget going from 225 to 241, the nice thing is within that price point, or that rehab amount, I should say, that's still your 10% contingency. So we didn't really blow the budget, but we strategically saw the ARV going up and up and up. So we made some of those decisions to say, okay, let's maybe put more into the wet bar into the basement, or let's be ready to have a concession, or we were willing to, our perfect scenario, I think, was, hey, let's have the pool running. Memorial Day weekend, it's open. So we were making those concessions, but it's always like, we want to double that return on investment, which on that house, without going overboard too, because we probably could have spent an extra $50,000.
Yeah.
I think that was kind of crazy. And then I think, Jesse, you brought up a good point earlier, which was putting context to the timing of this thing. So it was late 2020. We were kind of in the middle of COVID still. We were early into 2021, and we were listing it at the peak time, which is the very end of the spring, early summer. Talk a little bit about, where you guys, again, were there any reservations of where we were going to price that property? Other concerns as we were coming down the home stretch of figuring this thing out, because we were still spending a lot of money on this rehab.
Right. And it's funny that you say that, because when we did list it, there was no true comps that matched this house, because it was massive. No other house in that neighborhood was that big. 7 bedrooms. I think the biggest one in that neighborhood itself had like 5 bedrooms. I mean, obviously had a pool. So, we kind of had to look. I think it was Wadsworth was the big street, kind of like dividing, over the next neighborhood. We kind of had to dig into some comps on the other side of Wadsworth to see, like, what is this thing truly worth? But I think as far as any challenges, I think we were personally just most worried about the pool and not having it up and running, and concerned about what buyers would think about it.
Yeah. And listing wise, Jesse and I were both still fairly new. I mean, I still would almost consider us new to real estate, but we were both fairly new to the real estate world in general. So we were really relying on Derek and your team to help us list this and get it at a listing price that was going to make sense and be, as most
competitive.
Competitive and the most profitable that it could be.
Yeah. And I think that, Jesse, you mentioned before, Rachel, you have great design taste, which we very much appreciated. And I think on this one, it was kind of this great blending and marriage, because we were able to create what is now our 6th fixture and finish package, the $1 million listing package, because of this property. So we did nicer cabinets, we did nicer countertops, we did more high-end appliances, but we didn't break the bank. And that's something we're always trying to tell our clients and fellow investors. Like, yeah, we probably could have dropped an extra 50 to 100 grand to blow it out and go over the top. But again, in that part of Littleton, which is a southern suburb of Metro Denver, like, we're not in Cherry Hills, we're not in Cherry Creek, we're not in the Highlands. Like, there's only a threshold of what people will pay. Right. And the project still ran up 75 grand. And then to also kind of put it in context, I know this is always hard for us to see too, but to your point, we sold it to a family from Texas. They were used to having pools. It was a challenging and very kind of discerning buyer. I'll use that term. Some people would say picky. I'll call it discerning. But that buyer was kind of our person that we thought all along. And then if you guys don't have it, I've got my cheat sheet in front of me. But do you remember what happened when they lived there for a whopping 9 months and what they did and what they sold it for? I'll give you guys a chance to answer if you don't have it. I've got the notes.
So we sold. Was it June or July?
July. Closed in July. Mm-hmm.
That's right. I think we closed on your birthday.
Closed on my birthday.
Yeah. July 2021.
Great birthday present.
That is a good birthday present. Yeah.
So then that's right. They lived there until February 2022, right? 2022. They listed it, I think, for $115, I think. So $150,000 over what they paid not even a year ago. And then they closed a couple months later for like, what was it, 1.3 or something?
Yeah,
1.3?
just under 1.3. Yeah.
That's insane.
All they did, and we were wondering why they were trying to beat us up after the fact to get our kitchen cabinet designers info and all these other people's info, which we kind of have a hard time with as investors of, we get negotiated against that your house is trash, even though we had it super fixed up. Yeah. And then it's, oh, by the way, we want your vendors. Well, they did some smart strategic renovations where they converted, and this is something you and I went back and forth on it's great because no one has 7 bedrooms. But really, who needs 7 bedrooms at that size? So they converted one of the bedrooms to a beautiful ensuite, huge, like beautiful dream closet. I know my wife was really wanting that house. That was one of the first houses where my kids were like, we want to move here. I'm like, we can't afford to move here. We need to sell it. But they did that strategic improvement and they put another egress window in the basement. So maybe they put in 20 grand and they got a monster return. So it is making smart strategic improvements. And that's where the market peaked. It's funny because just before we recorded this podcast, I checked. So obviously if we think of 2022, things were crazy through June. It's now come down when things corrected. And I think it's back down to roughly about that 1.1 million. If you look on Redfin and Zillow and you re-pull comps, it's probably gone up a bit since when we sold it, but not crazy. It was just that perfect tsunami of, I think, the family wanting something fancier. And I think the guy owned a car dealership or something. And so they just, good place to park your money for 9 months and make $250,000.
They definitely had the hot market on their side.
Yeah.
And we did too, or we thought we did.
We did.
And we did, but they made almost more than we did.
Yeah.
No, they did. But it was,
Yeah, they really did.
Wild.
They probably did.
Yeah, you're definitely right.
A lot less headache.
You're right. They had a lot easier rehab to make probably the same amount of money. But and it could be converse where we would have sold it at the exact same time and they try to do that 7 months later. And that thing comes down another 300 grand. So it's the pros and cons of
it's the risk of real estate.
Yep. It is totally spot on, the risk of real estate. So as we kind of wind down this episode, I want to hear a little bit more about what you guys are doing now with J&R Homes. Tell us a little bit about kind of what's your current model. It's been so fun to kind of see you guys grow from super smart engineers and what most people would say, you did a great job, you got a degree, you got engineering jobs, and then you quit. Your parents probably freaked out. I know mine would have, but you're living your dream. And tell us what you're doing now, and then we'll kind of wrap up the episode.
Absolutely. In terms of our business, we are still buying and flipping in Denver. We've kind of found a nice little niche, doing a couple of higher end flips. We've just kind of seen, at least in terms of where we're at today, in terms of the market, there's a lot of people who are still buying cash in, the $1 million+ range. And, with interest rates so high, we find that those people aren't as affected. Obviously, it's a lot smaller of pool of buyers, but if you have something that's turnkey, that's in that price range, those things go quick right now. Yeah. And we've kind of found our niche there. We have one currently in Denver proper, off Broadway. Awesome spot. Perfect house to turn into a rental. So when we bought it, we were first thinking flip all the way. And,
we bought it last summer. So June of 2022 with intentions of flipping it and selling it, 5 to 6 months later. And then the last half of 2022 just really sunk. Like the market sunk down. And we had to strongly pivot on this project. We knew that we were probably maybe not going to get our return back, or we were not going to get like a good profit like we had first anticipated. And we pivoted and we said, hey, this is a great property to rent out. So maybe we can hold on to it. We'll still fix and flip it up and we'll rent it for a little while, which is what we're currently doing. So right now we're in like the furnishing stages. We have one renter down in the basement, and then we're going to do a little short term up top for a little while and see how it goes, and wait for the market to kind of get hot again and see what we're pivoting. We're working with what the market's giving us, but 2022 was no fun for any investor, or the latter half of 2022 was no fun for any investor. And we just had to pivot. So that's one of our projects right now. And then Jesse should tell about the other one we have.
The other one we bought intended as a flip in, I think we bought this thing in August of 2022 in Edgewater, Colorado. And it was, we bought it to flip. The basement I think was like 6'3" or something like that. So it was very, very small, but it was a substantial part of the square footage of the house. Right. We communicated with the city of Edgewater, said, hey, this is how we're buying it. Can we go ahead and finish the basement? Just leave it as is. And they said no.
Has to be 7 feet tall.
Has to be 7 feet. So we got a couple of bids to see what it would be to, dig it out and bring it to code. And it was like pretty much all of our profit of what it would have been if we flipped. So we pivoted. It was the perfect purchase price to demo and build a new house on.
Nice.
So we're partnering with a builder that's built a lot in Edgewater. He's done one like on almost every single street in Edgewater.
Yeah, it's a really cool neighborhood where Edgewater is like a very small area of town, and there's a lot of houses getting torn down and rebuilt. And Jesse, using his creativity, was like, hey, let's go look at these houses and see if we can just build a new one on this house. And basically stalked down this builder that had a couple of houses that looked similar in the neighborhood. And now we're working with him to make a new construction. And we got very lucky. This is another pretty big lot that we have on here.
It's a big lot. It's in Edgewater. So, right now in Denver, a new construction permit is taking anywhere. I've heard between like 12 and 18 months.
That's crazy.
Edgewater, it's a couple months.
2 to 4.
Yeah. So they've been
very fast for us.
It was the perfect spot to kind of, I feel like we've always thought that we would get into the development game just coming from a civil engineering background. That's, those are the projects that we worked on. Yeah. And it's come a little bit quicker than we thought, but it was just the perfect opportunity to, pivot to that.
Yeah.
So we're super excited.
Yeah. And on that note, it's super exciting for us too, as engineers, because we did used to be on the opposite side.
Oh, right.
Where developers, we worked mostly in like multifamily and commercial, development.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is residential, obviously, but we were on the engineering side, making these plans, submitting these plans, in touch with the city, that kind of stuff, working for other developers. And now we are the developers.
Yeah.
That's awesome. We are the ones reviewing plans and hiring, the engineer and the surveyor and doing all that stuff. So we have a lot more background than maybe most people do. And like Jesse said, we've always wanted to get into the new development game. Did not think we would do it this soon by any means. But like you said, we pivoted with what 2022 brought us and we're super excited. We are probably going to break ground within a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have all of our plans approved and they're just kind of going with the city and getting the rest of our ducks in a row. And we should have something built by the end of the year.
Yeah.
No, I think that's so awesome. And that's something that what we really love is having that collaboration between investors. And so you guys are the perfect example of one, you're able to pivot and do it as well as you can be expected in kind of crazy market circumstances. But then again, it's almost, and we're going to have my business consultant on here and then another couple of episodes talking about working within a growth mindset. So with you guys now doing development, that's not our sweet spot. So if we're all out finding deals, great. If there's a development deal, it's not one that we're going to take down. So we would love to sell it to you guys. And then if you're working on 3 big projects and it's kind of a simple condo flip, maybe it's not what is your bread and butter or your capital's tied up. Great, call us and then we buy it. Exactly. And now Rachel has her license and so she gets to sell these properties. So there's really just cool, exciting things that it's been really fun to see you guys grow and it'd be cool when we're doing a podcast. If I were 10 years down the road of what everybody's doing, but to me, that's the exciting thing about real estate is everybody thinks like, oh, I got to hold on to a deal or hold on to a wholesaler or hold on to a contact or a contractor. It's like we use some of the same contractors. We use the same systems on regular flips. It's like it should be a win-win-win. I don't think a lot of people think of it that way, but it's been fun to work with you guys in that manner.
Yeah. And I think real estate may get a bad rep sometimes of it can be very cutthroat and things like that. And I'm sure it can be in certain markets and certain people and stuff like that. But I feel like the people that we have networked with, like you, Derek, like we have all grown and shared and like helped each other out in so many ways that it is really fun to like you said, now I'm an agent and working on your team.
Right.
And, we just have this whole circle going of networking and it's been really amazing to meet so many mentors and friends and stuff like that along the way.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So as we kind of close out this episode, the last thing I want to ask you guys is maybe if you each, Rachel, you want to pick maybe something that was the easiest part about the partnership flip process on our project on West Friend, and maybe Jesse, if you want to tell us something that maybe was a little more challenging that you thought. So Rachel, if you want to start us off.
Yeah. So I think the easiest part was just like working with you and the team. Like it was seamless.
Thank you.
And we had mentioned earlier that this is our technically second partnership flip. I mean, we didn't call it that the first time around, but the very first project we ever did, we partnered with somebody as well who, renovates homes and flips homes in the area too. And these were significantly different in terms of like the organization, the time spent. And don't get me wrong, the first one was great and it was successful and we learned so much. It was our very first time ever. But we were busting up cabinets ourselves and we were doing a lot of sweat equity into that house and the organization was just not really there. But going with you and your partnership flip, there was so much organization there. We really showed up for maybe 1 to 2 times a week, met with you and the team, and we kind of went through the process, got a lot of education and experience, got to put in our 2 cents where, necessary and stuff. And it was received, and it was seamless experience, I would say.
Awesome. Well, thank you. It was a pleasure. Yeah. What was maybe something that was kind of a little more out of left field, a little more challenging?
I think the most challenging part was just trying to work with the grandma that lived there to try and get in there before, that was just so challenging. Everything after that, like Rach said, was super seamless. And anybody that wants to do the same thing with you, it's so easy to learn from you. If you want to learn, or if you just want to, not be a part of it and, have a partnership flip. It's just super seamless. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. It was a pleasure working with you guys as well.
Thanks, Derek.
Thanks.
Thank you.